Hello and welcome back to another UCL Fantasy video. Today we have the uttermost complete wildcard guide that you will need if you are activating that wildcard chip in Matchday 4. So we're going to take a look at fixtures, we're going to take a look at some key players and also the ideal chip strategy if you are wildcarding this week and you potentially have your limitless left over. Then of course we have a draft at the end, so let's jump straight into it. So it's a little bit of a more difficult match day this week with a lot of teams, or a lot of the bigger teams and more expensive teams have each other in match day 4. A lot of them play against each other, so there's a lot more bad fixtures this week than there is good fixtures. So I'd imagine if you are using a wildcard, it's probably because you have a lot of injuries or you really just have a lot of players who have either fallen out of favour in their teams and are really just a bit of a minute's risk now. So this week, I think if you are going to be wildcarding, you want to be focusing mainly on Borussia Dortmund and Barcelona because they are the two teams with the best players that have the best fixtures. So you can see Borussia Dortmund have Sturm Graz at home this week, along with Shakhtar having young boys at home, Feyenoord having RB Salzburg at home, Barcelona have Red Star away, and then Brest have Sparta Prague at home as well. So again, like I said, a lot of the bigger teams are playing against each other. You can see that in the worst fixtures this week. Essentially every single team, all 8 of these teams are teams that you probably would tend to have at least 1 or 2 players from. So this week it is really just Dortmund and Barca that we definitely want to be looking to triple up on. I'll look at that in just a little minute. But obviously on a wildcard you do have to have some cheap players in, and that's where I think you could potentially get a Shakhtar player in, maybe a Feyenoord, and then also a Brest player in as well. So obviously when trying to target Dortmund and Barcelona players, we have to have a look at their future games to see when we would potentially use our limitless chip. So if you do still have a limitless chip left over and you're wildcarding this week, I think limitless 6 is the best way to go, because you can see with Dortmund and Barcelona's fixtures, they play against each other in match day 6, so that is where they both have the toughest fixture. You can see around that they do actually have some pretty good fixtures. So obviously Red Star and Sturm Graz for the both of them. Barca have Brest at home in match day 5, Borussia Dortmund have Zagreb away. Then in match day 7, Barcelona play Benfica, Dortmund play Bologna, and then in match day 8, in the final match day, Barcelona play against Atalanta, and then Dortmund play against Shakhtar. So if you are wildcarding this week, definitely get the triple Barca, definitely get the triple Dortmund. And of course, if you have already used your limitless chip, it isn't the end of the world. You are going to still have triple Barca against Dortmund and triple Dortmund against Barca, which isn't the best situation, but it's not a terrible one either. You can get away with it if you have used it already. Now looking at the other teams that do have nice fixtures for the remainder of the league stage, we've got Bayern Munich, we've got Stuttgart, Aston Villa and Celtic, all teams that do have a pretty nice run. And again, a lot of these actually do have decent match day 6 fixtures, so I think match day 6, the limitless, is the best time to use it, whether you are on a wild card, but you could easily get away with it if you've already used it in match day 2 or 3, so plenty of options for you if you want to. But these are the kind of teams that we want to be looking at for our match day 4 wild card drafts. Again, specifically more for the expensive players, it's going to be the likes of Bayern Munich, Dortmund and Barcelona. So obviously on a wildcard we do need to have a couple of enablers if we want a lot of the more expensive options. So I've picked out 6 players that are really good value that also have either a nice run or a nice match day 4 fixture. So we've got Haidara from Brest at only 4 million. Now the reasoning for picking out him is not because he's getting a lot of goals and assists or anything, but a 4 million defender is quite difficult to come by, and he has been playing for Brest recently. He picked up a concussion in a recent match, but it looks as though he is going to be back for this weekend's game, so make sure if you are going to be picking him that you are keeping an eye out on the Brest lineup to make sure Haidara is there, so you've obviously got the best chance of him starting. We've also got Kubarsi as well, who is a known player now in UCL Fantasy. He's probably one of the best Barca defenders that you can get if you want to go for one. Personally, I do prefer going for the triple up in attack in Yamal, Rafinha and Lewandowski, but if you do need a nice value defender, he's a very nice option. We've got Gittins in midfield. We did talk about him in Matchday 1 being a really nice option, but he was a bit of a minutes risk. It now looks as though he is like totally nailed in that spot. So only 5.3 million for him. He is literally one of the cheapest midfielders in the game. Started off at 5 million, so he has risen a little bit. So if you've had him since Matchday 1, an absolute steal for him, because he definitely has been a really, really nice pick. We've got Malambo in there as well. Again, another player absolutely nailed on for Feyenoord. He's only 4.5 million. Again, similar with Kuhn beside him. Two bottom of the barrel cheap midfielders that you can get if you want a playing player that can obviously enable more of the expensive options. Now we've obviously got Morgan Rogers as well, who if you play FPL you know that he is a really nice pick, and he's only 5 million as well, so for that extra 0.5 on a Malambo or Kuhn you can get Morgan Rogers for only 5 million. So this is our clean sheet odds for this week as well. Now the clean sheet odds are actually a lot lower than they were for last week. You can see we've got no teams above 50%. I believe we had 3 or 4 last week in match day 3, so we've got no one above 50% this week, but a lot of the other teams we've got a lot more teams above 20%, so everyone's kind of in that middle range for clean sheets this week. But our top 3 for this week is going to be Dortmund, Barcelona and Bayern. So the top 3 are the 3 teams that we have been talking about focusing on for our wildcard in match day 4. Now the one thing you have to keep in mind with Bayern is they have PSG in the next round as a home game, so obviously it's not like must avoid kind of thing, but definitely something to keep in mind. Obviously we are more focusing on Dortmund and Barcelona. For some of your other players, you know, Real Madrid at 37%, PSG at 36%. We've got Feyenoord in there again at 35%, so potentially someone like Hanko in defence is a really nice option. I believe he's 4.5 million, and he is a pretty decent one for ball recoveries as well. He was a pretty popular pick in Euro Fantasy if you played that over the summer. And then you can see the list of all the other teams. I don't want to go through everyone, but obviously these are the teams that you want to be focusing on and potentially picking a couple of defenders from. And of course with the clean sheet odds we also need the over 2.5 goals odds. So these are the teams predicted to score, or the chance of each team scoring 3 or more goals. So once again, as we previously seen, is Dortmund, Barcelona and Bayern this week. So if you haven't been convinced already, yeah, this is definitely showing you why you should focus on these teams, Dortmund and Barcelona more specifically. Obviously because they have a better match day 5 fixture than Bayern do. Once again, Real Madrid is just slightly behind them at 41%, followed by Liverpool, again followed by Feyenoord. So again, Feyenoord looking like a decent team to go for if you're looking for a cheap player to pick for your wild card. Man City at 31%, and then of course we've got all those teams down the right. Again, if you are picking any rogue shouts, these are the teams with the highest chance of scoring a lot of goals. So with all that in mind, this is the draft I've put together for a wild card in game week match day 4. Now it's only worth 99.5 million, so whether you've been able to gain some budget over the last few match days, you should have about at least 0.5 to 1 million in the bank still. So if you wanted to make any upgrades to this team, you obviously can. But as we have been mentioning, we've got the triple Barca and we have the triple Dortmund as well. I've decided to go for triple Bayern as well, and you can easily make a transfer on match day 5 if you didn't want the triple up against PSG. But we've got Guirassy, we've got Gittins, we've got Chan. Personally, I think it's the 3 best Dortmund players you can go for. If you don't want to go for Guirassy and you want to pick out a different Dortmund player, I would probably go for Schlotterbeck and double up on the defence, just because he's absolutely nailed. But those are the 3 Dortmund players I think are the best you can pick out. Obviously, I already said it already with Barca, Lewandowski, Rafinha and Yamal. Personally, I think is just the 3 that I would definitely go for. And then obviously with Bayern Munich, we've got Kane, Elise and Kim. Now, personally, I would like to have Musiala in there instead of Elise. So, if you can try find, I believe it's 2.5 million. Musiala, I think, is 9 million. Elise being about 6.5. So you need to find 2.5 million somewhere. If you can do that, then that's what I would ideally do. But I've got Elise in there, and then Kim, obviously really nice for ball recoveries as well. And Bayern are quite high on the clean sheet odds for this week, so I wouldn't want to triple up on them for attack. Kind of just spreading out a little bit with the defender as well. Now in terms of the rest of the team, we've got Phil Foden in there, who has been player of the match for Man City in both their recent UCL games. They've got Sporting Lisbon away from home this week, and then it's Feyenoord at home in Matchday 5. So not the worst fixtures in the world, which is why we do still have two Man City players. We've got Foden and we've got Akanji, but not the easiest fixtures either. So personally, I don't think it's worth going for Haaland for that kind of money, which is why we've got Foden as a nice backup anyway, and he's always a captaincy pick if you wanted to go against Haaland. Akanji, really nice for ball recoveries, has picked up a lot of points so far in UCL Fantasy this season, and a really nice pick. Rudiger as well, probably your best Real Madrid defender. You know, I think they were 4th for clean sheet odds, so one that I would definitely like to cover off. Then we've got Gutierrez as well. If you watched last week's wildcard video, we did recommend him as a cheap gem, so I really hope you picked him. I picked him in my limitless team, and he got 15 points, I think. It might have been 16 points, which was absolutely fantastic. So we've picked him again for PSV, and Girona have a decent little run as well. Now, in terms of the goalkeepers, I've decided to go for Schmeichel and Karnesha, and you can see the rotation between them for the next two. Now, they're both 4.5 million goalkeepers, and they work quite well with each other. Again, you probably would have to limitless in 6 for this, because obviously they play on the same day in match day 6. So if you don't have a limitless available, then you could maybe look elsewhere, but I think Schmeichel and Karnesha is a pretty decent option for a goalkeeper duo. Schmeichel was RB Leipzig on the first day this week, followed by Karnesha with Stuttgart on the second day. Matchday 5 is where it looks really nice, both with Club Brugge and then Young Boys, which is pretty decent. Matchday 6, obviously you want to be using your limitless there, so you're avoiding that Real Madrid fixture with Atalanta. Then Matchday 7, probably the best fixtures you can get. Celtic play against Young Boys at home, and Atalanta play against Sturm Graz at home as well. Then for Matchday 8, obviously everyone plays at the same time, so both goalkeepers are also playing at the same time. And that's how the team is looking, so pretty chuffed with this. I think it's a pretty decent one to look for. Obviously very focused on the 3 teams we've mentioned in Bayern, Barcelona and Borussia Dortmund, because they do have the best runs for basically the rest of the league stage. Now we've got a lot of players playing on Tuesday this week, which is nice. So Guirassy, Gittins, Foden, Gutierrez, Akanji, Rudiger, Chan and Schmeichel. So you get 8 players playing on Tuesday, and then obviously 7 playing on Wednesday, which is kind of the ideal swap, the ideal mix that you want to go for, if that's the right word. But that's how we're looking for this team. Obviously, you can easily make some changes. You know, there's plenty of money in the bank to do so if there's maybe 1 or 2 players that you don't like. But that's how I've went for. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed it. We're going to have a limitless video out as well. Then obviously my team selection will be out closer to the deadline. So make sure you subscribe for more of that and turn on notifications. So once again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.